Hello and welcome to Click News. My name is Jen Lin, bringing you the latest on what matters in America and around the world. You are watching Click News. Thank you for watching. Today we will be looking at the future of America and migrants flooding New York City. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Well, now to the crisis at the southern border. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has ordered more buses to send more migrants north to Democratic-run cities amid the surge in asylum seekers.
Queremos dar la bienvenida a Nueva York.
New York, the United States, still has that hope, that glimmer of hope for people to come here.
Major cities far from the southern border are welcoming record numbers of migrants.
En mi país no hay futuro. Y yo no quiero que mis hijos no tengan el mismo futuro que yo.
As families fight for a future, migration in America faces a reckoning.
In New York City, we've been proud to help more than 110,000 asylum seekers to date, but now we need help. We've done much more than our share here to help asylum seekers coming into our country.
In America's largest sanctuary city, the right to shelter is being tested and tensions are rising.
To make sure that all these politicians pay for hanging us out to dry.
It's $12 billion over the next 3 years to shelter and feed these people. $12 billion in taxpayer funding. New York City is limited, and we are at capacity.
It reaches a point where it becomes unmanageable. And we have stated it clearly, there is no more room in our city. We need help. This is unsustainable. We're at full capacity. We cannot start our day crossing our fingers, hoping we can have enough room for children and families. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
Yo de chiquito siempre quería estar aquí en América. Siempre me ha gustado por los trenes, por el frío, las cuatro etapas, todo, los cuatro climas. Entonces era un sueño que siempre tenía de chiquito. Siempre me llamó la atención América.
¿Y la ciudad cómo es?
La ciudad, hay muchos locos, pero es bonita, me gusta.
17-year-old Alexis Ayo is one of the more than 20,000 migrant children who enrolled in New York City schools this year. He and his mother are living in a Manhattan hotel turned shelter after immigrating from Cuenca, Ecuador.
Era muy peligroso. También mucha delincuencia, mucha muerte. Entonces, ya no había mucho futuro ahí.
¿Qué quieres en el futuro aquí en los Estados Unidos?
¿Qué quiero en el futuro aquí? Pues tener primero mi título, graduarme. Porque no sé a qué momento se me puede ir mi mamá. Y quiero que ella me mire con la sorpresa que me gradué del high school. Segundo, seguir la universidad para también tener mi título. Y si tengo mi esposa o mis hijos, saber que le voy a dar una estabilidad buena. No va a ser como en mi país.
Alexis is a student at Inwood's High School for Excellence in Innovation, a New York City public school where enrollment increased by 25% with newly arrived asylum seekers. He and his classmates are part of a record migration surge. Authorities at the southern border encountered more than 2 million migrants in each of the past 2 years, the only times that's ever occurred. The influx comes from deteriorating conditions in Latin America and the expiration of Title 42, a COVID-era policy that kept asylum seekers outside the U.S. while their applications were completed, a process that can take years to finalize due to backlogs in the courts.
So what are we expecting tonight?
So right now, we're expecting 2 buses. It seems like they're gonna come back to back. We've been the premier organization that's been on the ground since day one, and we continue to be there, and we basically outlasted every city agency. At this point, the only people that show up is the National Guard, and that's only to give out flyers.
Power Malu is the founder of Artists, Athletes, and Activists, a grassroots organization working to welcome asylum seekers by connecting them to legal and housing resources.
So the bus is pulling up right now. We don't know how many people are inside. We don't know the mix of demographics inside, but we're about to find out.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has bused more than 50,000 migrants to Democrat-led sanctuary cities, including 20,000 to New York, about 15% of the more than 130,000 asylum seekers who have arrived in the city since spring 2022.
Hola, mi gente. Bienvenida a Nueva York.
First and foremost, I welcome them to New York City. And that kind of like lowers their anxiety levels. Bienvenido. Bienvenida, hermana. Bienvenido.
Gracias.
Y bienvenida. ¿Cómo tú estás? And then from there, we take them to the intake center.
Most of these people have been traveling for months through unimaginable conditions, and they're finally here in New York City, but this leg of the journey is just beginning. The busload that just arrived is mostly families from Central and South America, some with very small children. Is there a most common story? What are these people going through just to get to this point?
So the common story is that they've given up their lives in other places just to come here because they just simply didn't think that they could survive. They borrowed thousands of dollars to actually make this journey. And now they're being threatened that if they don't pay this money, something is going to happen to their family members. And in the midst of this journey, they have been robbed. In the midst of this journey, unfortunately, women have been sexually violated. It's just easy to prey on people that are vulnerable. And this population is that.
When you're encountering these people, what is the number one need and what is their general feeling when they arrive?
The first thing they ask for is an opportunity to work. Then after that is, are they able to enroll their kids in school? After that is, are they able to eat? And then, of course, what's the process of them being able to stay here? Because they're afraid that they're already going to get deported. These people are being used as political pawns all across the board. And we're trying to humanize the situation. We're doing the outreach to make sure that people aren't stranded in a hotel room or stranded on the street.
New York offers legal right to shelter, which requires the city to provide beds to anyone who asks for one. To comply during this crisis, New York opened more than 200 emergency sites, and city officials estimate that housing and caring for asylum seekers will cost $12 billion over the next 3 years.
So right now we're at the Roosevelt Hotel, and this is the intake center where all these beautiful families are gonna go to get intake, and some of them have a final destination of another city and state, and that's where they're gonna go. And the other ones that need shelter, they're gonna sign up and register for shelter here. We good?
Tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
Right on, brother.
The Roosevelt Hotel is New York City's main intake facility for asylum seekers, earning it the nickname the New Ellis Island.
This is the New York City Asylum Seeker Arrival Center. Today, we're going to have more than 500 adults, families, and children come through that door. That door is where all asylum seekers coming into New York City come through. We immediately offer life-saving vaccinations to children. We offer warm meals. We offer everything you need to take care of your children. And then we're going to have the conversation about what your goals are, whether we can help to meet those goals right now, or whether we're going to place you into our New York City system and take some time to meet those goals with you over the next coming weeks. Whatever you say you want, if that's getting to a different place, we'll immediately help to reticket you and your whole family to get to that place. A lot of needs are along the lines of medical care. We have screening to make sure that you don't have any communicable diseases that we need to address for you right away, to see if you have any chronic diseases that we can help with, and we screen everybody for depression given the trauma they've gone through.
Valentina Marin and her family are among the 7 million migrants who have fled Venezuela in recent years, following the country's economic collapse.
Vimos como que también todo hay que todos están emigrando a Estados Unidos, que hay oportunidades allá. Y bueno, le enviamos lo que tenemos y nosotros vinimos.
¿Cómo fue el viaje por aquí?
Fue fuerte el camino, muchas horas, que nos querían secuestrar, que nos querían robar. Unas personas todas vestidas de negro nos querían subir a una camioneta. Nos tuvimos que esconder, que es muy peligroso, muy peligroso. Mi hijo se cayó del tren, miren, ahí tiene su marca.
Oh, wow. ¿Cómo se siente ahora?
O sea, bien, pero algunas partes no tan bien.
¿Por qué?
Por lo menos donde yo vivo no es bien. mucha delincuencia, mucha droga, y no me gusta para mis hijos, porque salgo y eso es lo que ellos ven. Vengo huyendo de una cosa que es así y lo voy a traer aquí igual así muy fuerte, porque donde nos encontramos trabajo y solo depender de alguien es difícil, no es lo que esperábamos de verdad. Entonces vamos a intentar otra vez en otro lugar a ver cómo nos va, porque si no resulta, prefiero que me devuelvan a mi país donde no estoy sola, porque aquí sola no es fuerte.
In September, 103,000 parents traveling with children crossed the southern border illegally, the most ever recorded. Asylum seekers arriving with families are especially difficult for cities to manage because they rely more heavily on government services.
There are about 20,000 children that have entered our school system, all of whom are going to need a lot of support. Not just social services, but emotional support, mental health support that needs to be provided to these children and families.
Manuel Castro is New York's Commissioner of Immigrant Affairs. In October, he joined Mayor Eric Adams on a trip to Central America to reach potential asylum seekers with the message that New York City is out of space.
We don't want to have people placed in conditions that are not suitable for children, for families, and single adults.
I know you and the mayor went down to Central America to get this message across that, there's not necessarily a five-star hotel waiting for you. Do you feel like the message is getting across?
Well, what are asylum seekers hearing that is driving them to go up north? We wanted to make sure that what was being shared by smugglers who have an incentive to perhaps exaggerate what migrants might find once they come to the United States is accurate. Actually, once you arrive into the country, you don't get a work permit automatically. You're not going to get a five-star hotel. Sometimes they arrive here and it's very different from what they expect. We've heard of instances of people asking to be sent back home.
At what point do we need to rethink the border situation and who qualifies for asylum?
The asylum system is completely broken. I think everyone now realizes the fact that it makes no sense to admit people into the country, ask of them to find legal counsel when they might have a few dollars in their pocket. And then how are they supposed to provide for themselves if they don't have a work permit or a legal right to work in the United States? That needs to be fixed. We're going to have to make adjustments, especially because we want to avoid having people, especially children or families, sleeping in the streets, which can happen.
Tonight, the migrant crisis in New York City is nearing a breaking point, with shelters at capacity and asylum seekers now being forced to sleep on the streets.
In July, Mayor Adams announced the city was out of shelter space and that some asylum seekers would need to sleep outside the Roosevelt Hotel. The administration has since attempted to suspend right to shelter and enacted policies forcing parents with children to reapply for housing every 60 days.
How do you come to the decision to put a limit on a shelter stay and make people continue to reapply?
We've been saying this over and over. At some point, we're going to have to make changes to be able to continue to accommodate the people that are arriving. So for us to be able to support the people who continue to arrive, we do need to make room in our system. The issue is that we haven't had the appropriate support from the federal government.
At what point does the city reach its breaking point?
I think we've been saying for many months that we've already reached our max capacity. Since this humanitarian crisis started, we've essentially doubled our homeless population in the city. And this happened overnight. Just in the last couple of weeks, we broke records of people arriving. In one day, a couple of weeks ago, we received 1,000 people. Can you imagine trying to figure out how to find beds for 1,000 people you didn't know they were coming? And the fear here is that one day we are going to start seeing people sleep on the street, or children go without the support that they need, or people go without the emergency attention, that they often come with, and we won't be able to do anything about it.
A recent Siena College survey showed 58% of New Yorkers, including 46% of Democrats, agree with Mayor Adams that the recent influx of migrants will destroy New York City. And in the city's most conservative borough, tensions are rising.
What's best for everybody is not filling New York City with 100,000 new people who, really are coming here illegally.
School teacher Rachel Maniscalco and her family live in Staten Island, which, despite taking in roughly 2% of the city's new arrivals, has been the most vocal borough against sheltering migrants.
This is St. Joseph Hill to my right, and the public school's right back there.
In August, a former Catholic high school in Staten Island was converted to a 300-bed shelter for migrant families, which surrounding homeowners complained negatively impacted the neighborhood.
What's up? How many live in there now?
I don't know how many are there. In here? Mm-hmm. The last I heard the count was 60-something.
Okay.
About 65, I heard.
No showers?
Outside, next
Where?
to my fence.
Next
shower bathroom next to my fence, and they pump it out every day, and
I said
smell
that.
the sewage. Yeah.
I said that. Oh, my God, I'm so
every
sorry.
day.
Are you trying to move yet? Is the house for sale?
Yeah, half price, yeah. You
No.
want a good deal? Let's hope they do the right thing.
Let's
because
hope,
this has nothing to do with what side of the aisle you sit
I
on.
agree.
It has to,
totally
there's
agree.
a bigger picture here. This is about our neighborhood, our community, our country.
Yep.
People better put their heads together, because this is getting ugly fast. They're doing some real damage to this country.
What do you think the city should be doing? What do you think America should be doing about all of these people that are trying to flee somewhere more dangerous?
Sure.
And seek a better life here?
I would probably want to limit the influx of immigration and definitely see who really needs to be here and who has a claim to asylum. New York City is limited, and we are at capacity, truly. We were before this. It's $12 billion over the next 3 years to shelter and feed these people. $12 billion in taxpayer funding. So what we're seeing is we don't care about you and your bills. It's just such a slap in the face. It's been a lot on the community, and luckily Staten Islanders we're very loud. And we're very public in our frustration.
After asylum seekers arrived in Staten Island, residents flashed lights into windows of the shelter throughout the night and blasted hostile messages over loudspeakers.
This is about New York City and Staten Island.
In the weeks that followed, protests against housing migrants have been regularly held outside the shelter.
Ground zero for the invasion is in Texas, but ground zero for the fix is right here. Right here in Staten Island. The right to shelter stands for New Yorkers. And that's it. It's for New Yorkers. If they're New Yorkers, we gotta take care of them. If they're from Venezuela and Mauritania and Africa and China, and they're on a terrorist watch list, we don't have to take care of them. America, the world is watching Staten Island. I'm Old Testament, baby. I'm gonna make sure that all these politicians pay for hanging us out to dry. Victory will be ours in Staten Island, in New York City, and New York State, and most importantly, in America.
I mean, that is such a failure of the administration to say, come on in, but now in 2 months from now, you're living on the street? How is that addressing the humanitarian crisis that they are so explicitly telling us that this is?
This doesn't have to be a crisis. It's a crisis because of the lack of communication and the incompetency of a lot of people in these positions that are making horrible decisions when it comes to these human beings.
Would you be surprised that some of your same opinions are shared with some of the protesters asking for these people to be moved somewhere else?
Well, I'm not surprised. What I don't agree with is the rhetoric that they're using. What do you think about different solutions as opposed to just saying, get them out of my community? Because they're still gonna be here and they're still gonna be coming here. They're just coming here for an opportunity. And if you think about it, you need to look at your history and see how your people and your family members got here and they got treated the same way. So instead of repeating that, you should try to look for a better way on how to deal with the situation.
as more cities welcome influxes of new arrivals. Officials in Washington, D.C., Texas, Illinois, Massachusetts, and Colorado have joined New York in declaring states of emergency, requesting federal assistance for overwhelmed shelter systems.
Los detalles que tú vas a escribir es muy importante y entonces ahí tú vas a escribir detalles en que tú necesitas, si es abogado, si es ropa, si es coche para la nena, para entonces lo vemos y entonces te podemos decir a dónde, ¿ok? So this is where everything happens, where we connect people with lawyers, any kind of benefits with HRA, enrolling their kids in school, because a lot of times they come in and they'll be sitting in the shelter not knowing what to do because they don't have the services or people are not asking the right questions.
And a church sanctuary feels like an inviting space to most of these people, right?
Yeah, the fact that we can have a door open for them to come in and out and know that this is a safe place for them. We're grateful to have this opportunity here. He wants to go to LA right now?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about right now.
Okay, so we can connect him so that they can get a ticket for him. So, ¿tú quieres ir para Los Ángeles? Sí. ¿Cuántas personas?
Nosotros somos un niño de 2 años, mi hijo, uno de 7 y mi esposa y yo 4.
Okay. Unfortunately, you know, when people don't have people to advocate for them or that have their backs, those are the ones that are used as punching bags and they're blamed for situations. So for us, it's just deal with what we have here so that we can actually do something about it, as opposed to just talking about how horrible this is and how these people are going to destroy our city. It's not true. If they had an opportunity, they would help to rebuild our city.
Si llegases a este país no puedes embarrarlo todo, no puedes dañarlo. Entonces, para mí es algo que lo aprecio mucho porque sufrí mucho.
There are people living in these places who have families, who have children, who are here to better their lives. Absolutely. We want people to flourish, but we also feel that we need to be a priority where we live, and we're not feeling that right now.
After weeks of protests, the Staten Island shelter at St. John Villa was shut down after the FDNY found serious safety violations.
In New York City, we've been proud to help more than 110,000 asylum seekers to date, but now we need help. We've done much more than our share here to help asylum seekers coming into our country.
New York City was not set up to address a humanitarian crisis of this magnitude. We want to be able to help, but how much longer can we do this on our own? And that is really the dilemma that we're in.